All right, we'll call July 10th transit meeting to order. Roll call. Everyone present except for Richard Johnson, Gary Bjork, and Jerry Hartman. Approval of minutes. I think the missing last week, Darren Wiki, I think you were here last week.
Yeah, I think it was too.
So just change that. He was here. Otherwise, there's a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the June 12th transit meeting
With the correction.
with the correction. Yeah.
Second, any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved. Public comment. Nothing. Austin.
Okay. Morning, everyone. Agenda today, ridership financials, publicity on the route, electric bus update, and any questions. Doorstop and Red Cedar ridership as a whole from May to June saw a small downtick, but with the amount of service days in May versus June, we were actually up 3 riders on the daily and up 15%, sitting right in the middle versus previous years. Little below the median. Community route ridership down 23% versus May in June, but with it being our first full month, with the university not being around, it still brings in a close second to the best year ever back in 2023, and it actually narrowed the gap versus last year, so that was great to see. 2024 financials through June, we're sitting banked a few more thousand and sitting 19,809 to the good. With what we have upcoming for capital projects, and I wanted to confirm where we were at, what we had in our enterprise fund balance, because we've saved some money the past few years. 345,000 unrestricted funds in the fund balance through 2022, and for the 2023 operations budget, there should be around another 24,687 that'll be added to that. With what we have for these electric buses and or sourcing other diesel buses, if those had to come out of operational costs or out of our fund balance on the capital side to source these other ones in the meantime, I wanted to confirm what we had and how healthy we were sitting. So is that number based off of the fact that the electric bus thing hasn't happened?
Yes.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Most of it.
So
some
this
of it.
next slide will
Okay.
kind of give a breakdown of what we're going to have. Actually, a few more from here, but we'll come back to that and some of the financials to the electric bus stuff here in a few. Publicity, looking back this June versus last June, with putting a little bit of advertising funds in on Google, up 28%. On people seeing our business profile on Google, up 25%. On calls made versus last June, up 50% on website clicks. Showing how everybody's seeing our stuff, mostly through mobile app. And what are they searching for? Menominee bus stops, Menominee bus, Dunn County Transit. People looking for the school bus in town, and then Menominee Transit. We emailed the city recently on the potential new stops, the new spots for the current CVTC bus shelter. After we get a go-ahead from Dave in the city, I believe it was the highway department that poured the different paths back in 2020 for these. Is that correct?
I believe the city poured the pads, but we put the,
Put them together. Shelter. Okay, so then we'd be coordinating with them on the go-ahead on the two new spots. I sent Dave a mock-up of in front of the government center, or halfway between the government center and Oakleaf, as well as on that service road, right by where it's at now, just on the road going east-west, and then on the south side of that. Okay, electric bus update from Phoenix Motor Cars on 6/27. After not hearing anything for about a month and a half, we received an email. They received the go-ahead on a manufacturer called CATL. Their new long-range battery option. They're the largest vehicle battery manufacturer in the world, and they're confident that their solution will fit nicely into their products. They use them for their standard range packs, and we have seen some of the best efficiencies and quality we have yet to see in another battery partner. They are ordering the test pack this month. They should receive it in October. Starting this October, they'll be validating, designing new bracketry, designing harnesses, bench testing, quality control, and with this, they're also prepping for Altoona simultaneously, and hope to have SOP ready by July 25, assuming they have the test vehicle ready to go. Should start testing at Altoona in Q3 25 and hopefully ready to deliver by the end of 2026. I know this delay is not good, but we are doing all we can to redevelop our Buy America after losing our previous manufacturer funding. For our next email, it looks like their next monthly email is coming in October. So that doesn't look like 25 to me. That looks like 2026.
spring.
Yeah. So we have a carry forward into 24 of that. I believe 607,000 on the capital side. That would move to 25, 26. But also, when I was talking to Beata the other day, we have a capital budget this year for buses. If there was something that stood out to us in the used market at that same during this time frame, obviously that's not 80-20 or 85-15 on percent match, but also it's not $80,000 to $240,000 for a bus. These used transit buses, some are going from 10 to 20,000, which is your local match anyways.
Which is, yeah, I was just gonna say a local match anyway, so.
That one we bought for 24,000 had 50,000 miles on it. We picked up in Kentucky a couple years ago. Is the newest one in the fleet. There hasn't been a day it hasn't been on the road yet, so that's been a good purchase for us.
So how much is a new one? You're just gonna get a regular diesel.
These cab over or these cutaway diesel buses that would be around the same size as the big stout buses that we have would be around 120 to 150 at 80% match.
The smaller ones that would match these electric ones would be around 80 to 100.
And the electric ones are,
Two. It's in my next slide here, but I'll just go to it right now. I believe two.
almost double.
Yep, yeah. So about 226, 224. So
What was the match on that though?
5% better. It's 85,
15. Yeah, okay.
So we went through the original purchase order a couple weeks ago, myself and Sophia. And there is no hard dates on the purchase order for deadlines or expiration dates. We also sent, I talked to WisDOT a little bit. I'm trying to get all of the Wisconsin agencies on a phone call. That hasn't happened yet before this meeting. I left a voicemail yesterday to WisDOT again. So far, what we have not gotten reimbursed for is the, because we didn't receive it yet, is the 20% down payment for the two buses, which totals $93,378. We paid around $40,000 for those chargers, and then we were reimbursed at 90% for those. So we only have around 4,000 to 5,000. Chargers, that's all reimbursed. Those are all installed. Currently out there, that's what it's sitting at. Question is, once we get reimbursed for these 20%, our total cost would be $14,000 of that down payment. The remaining balance for these, sorry, this is 80/20. No, that's correct. For the 80% remaining, the 15 that we would be responsible for is at 56,000. Adding that to the 56 puts us at 70,000 total local share for those two. If a purchase order is canceled, I've never been in a situation like this. I don't think WisDOT has either with how this has happened, but the question I was going to have with them the next time we're on the phone was, at what point are they responsible for, if we, let's say we cancel this purchase order, are we responsible to not get paid back for that 20%? You know what I mean? That should be refunded at 85%, but if we cancel the purchase order, are we on the hook for 14,000 or 93? So
You're talking about you buy a used one where there's no match whatsoever. Or bought a new one, you're saying you're looking at $80-some thousand.
$50 for two of them, right? That total, 80,000.
correct. Yeah. Adding these together to equal 70,000 or so. That's our share of two new 14-passenger ones on this purchase order. On a normal one, on a normal procurement right through WisDOT, which I signed up for one bus for 25 in case these didn't make it in 25, that'd be 20% match of 100,000 owners. So 20,000, say for a new gas bus, 25 to 30 for a new diesel bus of our share.
So I guess that makes way more sense to me than buying a used one.
Yes, if the timeline for a normal procured bus is around a year, it's gotta be put in for the next year, which I did for 2025. But if this other stuff keeps getting delayed, I think we should look more at more of the conventional style procurement.
Otherwise, we're gonna get way behind.
The other thing with,
But yes.
Can I ask a question, Austin? So,
Mhm.
okay, so let me just make sure I understand. So electric buses, we have 2 on order.
Yep.
We've already invested 93,000.
Yep.
We would get that back if they were delivered,
we'd get all but
14,000,
14 of that back towards the down payment.
right? And then we'd owe another 56,000.
Yep.
So we owe 70,000 on 2 new electric buses.
Yep.
We would.
14 passenger ones.
Correct.
And the question on the table that's unanswered at this point in time is if we cancel a purchase order, do we get our $93,000 back?
Yes. Yep. And at the next meeting, I'll have another call with Wisconsin DOT by then to give more clarity. The one thing, if we did cancel this, with this purchase order being signed, is if we went to another one, the cost would be considerably higher than what these were signed up for.
For electric buses,
Yes.
yes. But you could buy diesel buses for under $150,000 with the 20%.
Correct.
But we have the charging stations up and.
Correct.
Is there any,
That'll be outdated by the time.
that's what I was just gonna ask, if the,
Right, they're going.
where do those charging stations stand with the production of the batteries nowadays? I mean,
Once if,
we all know how fast things change, you
Yep.
know, and you probably don't know the answer. I'm just thinking out loud like Dustin just was. I've been thinking about that since kind of started talking about this, where our charging stations will stand in 2020, spring of 25 or fall of 26.
8 maybe.
Yeah. and these were installed 2 years ago now,
Correct.
22. One's a 60 kilowatt, one's a 30 kilowatt. So one's a fast charging station, one's not. One's a level 3, one's a level, something like that. Yeah. But yeah, you bring up good points.
I mean, and I guess maybe those are maybe a question you could shoot out to them and just, here's the status of our charging stations when we thought buses were going to be delivered at this date, which should have worked. Where are we going to stand in 2026? Because, if it's minor adjustments, which it probably will be, but
So do you have finances on what a diesel or gas bus take for fuel, what they use, what the cost is per year?
Yeah, I can present that next month. We get a sheet from Highway on what each bus went through for gallons each month, and then the total divided by all of them. And they did a breakdown a while back on what the electric buses should cost per mile, that sort of thing. Some of that I think is subjective to the area that it's in, or the climate that it's in. But I have all the data on the stuff that we have here, so I can do that.
Thank you.
We had our first month under 3,000 on our fuel bill, so we were able to bank a little bit on that. So it's good.
Just trying to understand the fleet, okay? So, I mean, there's concern we're gonna get behind. But I don't have anything in front of me that says where we're at, in our fleet, where we'd like to be for next year, where we'd like to be for 26. And again, so I mean, understanding where the fleet is and understanding where we're possibly substitute hazard, right?
Next question.
Laying that out would be important, and then being able to lay the financials out with it would be important. And then my other question was, when you buy outright used, you don't have to wait, right?
Nope.
Okay, that's the benefit.
Yep.
Maybe the same cost within $4,000 or $5,000 was matched, but you can get what you want when you want. And in the case of the one in Kentucky, is a pretty good machine.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I need to understand where our fleet is and age and how we're going to progress them out, and then how we would progress them if the electrics would show up in 26, if not. Understanding that and understanding where all the pennies in the piggy bank go at the right slot. And then like you said, you have the data, is understanding the per mile cost or the operational cost of each, and where the break even happens on the 70,000 that we invest in the electrics. I think Mark asked a good question of getting real data on our chargers. I know the chargers actually were upgraded once from our original spec. In our case, I believe all our charging will be overnight, so level 2, level 3, I don't know if it matters. But it's a good question to ask. So yeah, I'd just like to know all the variables out there to protect ourselves and hedge in the right spot.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
If we buy used, what's the standard value change if we were to sell it when we get,
Not
say we get
much.
electric? So, yeah.
Yeah, I actually was looking around for like a 14 passenger I was thinking about converting it into a little overnight camper type thing. And so I've been watching, and the value is really good in them. I mean, they're getting a lot of money for them yet.
Okay.
You know, even the ones I was looking at were well over 120,000 miles. Most of them were in the 190 to 230, and they were still getting really good money for them. So
We talk about transit buses and stuff. Those are 500 to 700,000 to buy new. We showed 20% match of that's 100 to 110, 120,000. When they're 10 years old with 200,000 on, some of these big cities are phasing them out. There's 2 very nice ones that match for $11,000 a piece.
Wow.
Usually those run for 700,000 miles. So you could run that for another 200,000-300,000, get your same 10,000 out of it. There's, especially what we see with the plow trucks and stuff, after they get certain age and miles, you're putting more money than cost to keep. But I think there's some upside to some of these versus it takes a lot to get 100,000 a local share on the transit side. That something like that is a pretty cost-effective option for what. There's no market for used transit buses. Even for RVs, they're too heavy. So that's what drives the price down versus a cab over that we discontinue here used to go for $3,000 pre-COVID. Now, like Mark's saying, they're going for 8 to 10 because costs have gone up on new ones. People have to run them longer. So yeah, I'll have good data on this. Graphs for you next month.
Everything.
Yeah.
I would like to even know what vehicles, 318 to 314, what the miles are, what their age is, what you think they're going to get.
Yeah, we need a good spreadsheet on that.
Yeah.
I think, and part of that spreadsheet, if I could add one thing, would be kind of what the history of what that bus has cost. Because you can, we all know, I've had vehicles that were pushing 250-some thousand miles that I wasn't putting a dime into other than normal oil changes and tires and stuff like that. And then I've had others that are in the 80,000 range where I had to put a head gasket in it and I had to fix a tranny, and you know what I mean?
The workhorse versus the one full of gremlins.
Yes. Yeah. Just kind of where our fleet stands. Which one's the gremlin?
We've got a few of those.
Yeah.
On both
I'm
sides.
sure we do.
So
Well, and even swapping those out. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, if it's been a constant problem, it's like, okay, let's
Take a
sell
shot at
it,
it.
buy a used one, because, I mean, I've got trucks with over 200,000 on it. It's just, I'm buying them, like, I'm not spending money.
Yeah.
I want to replace them, but I'm like, why? They're not costing me anything.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get, another 50,000, I'm gonna get the same money, so I just keep,
Yep.
I don't know, but if they're they're giving us problems, I'd almost rather go find a used one and get that one out of here.
Just go like this, that's a good one.
Our scout buses aren't big enough.
Well, that's, I know you've mentioned that too, and I guess that's my final comment on this would be, you know, the capacity. I think part of your wish list or your listing maybe could include what you would like to see as capacity for now that you've done a great job of keeping track of the data of ridership, you know, and are our buses big enough, basically? Are they doing what you need, or is your driver having to bop around town with their hair on fire because they can't carry enough people and they gotta hurry up and get back to some, you know what I mean? And just kind of where that stands, like, hey, I'd really like to get a 50 passenger, I don't know what the numbers are, but you know, what more like a city bus,
Yeah.
at least one to be able to handle this particular time of the day, especially when Stout's back in session. So,
All good things for next month, get all that organized.
Okay.
All right,
Do that.
what else you got?
That's it.
Sounds good, thanks. Number 7, there's none. 8, nothing. Next meeting is August 14th. Same place, same time. Austin will have a bunch of stuff for next month, so see you then. Meeting adjourned.
I will be here in September.
Thank you.